Ricky, you spent nearly 20 years immersed in music, starting as a drum and expanding into guitar, bass, and more. Now you've captivated audiences with your live looping shows where you build songs right in front of them, layer by layer. Beyond music, you've made a name for yourself in South Florida radio and have even written children's books that captivate the imagination of young readers. But what I want to know is, do you consider yourself creative?
Yeah, it's my fucking superpower. I mean, that's like literally the only thing that I've ever felt I had a total grasp on was creativity. It kind of got me through every moment of my life.
Was there a moment that you kind of had that clicking moment or that aha moment where it's just like, this is what I want to do? Or like, maybe I am creative? I mean, some people experience that at such an early age, people find it later in life.
I don't know if I've ever had a moment where I was like, yeah, I want to be creative for the rest of my life. I think it was like I wanted to play music for the rest of my life. I knew that was creative. And then when it got down to the part of doing other things, that creativity just kept coming back. It was like it's like a spectral thing that like I'll just be in a situation and creativity sort of comes. And I think that's like one of the things like you're a creative person, so you know, like you're sitting in a room and you think you be if you're staring off into space and you're looking at something and be like, oh well, that picture would probably look better over there. Why? Why did you think that? And that's like creativity just always going, no matter what.
And I don't know, recently for me, it just feels like I don't know if I'm just really creative or I just have horrible ADD. And it's just, and I have like all these things going on and I have discipline and work drive. So I'm able to do all these little things. But sometimes it's almost just, I don't know if I'm just burning the candle at both ends or whatever kind of the expression is.
I mean, it's a possibility. We were having a conversation last night after rehearsal about, my wife and I went to a Blink-182 concert, and she loves concerts. She wants to go to concerts all the time. And my issue is that when I'm at shows, any type of show, I'm always in work mode, no matter what, even if it's like a huge show or if it's a small show. So while she's watching Blink-182 play all of their most famous songs, I'm looking at there's an onstage monitor engineer, there's a front of house engineer, there's a back of house engineer. I'm watching them communicate with each other. I'm watching the hands going back and forth and exchanging guitars and everything like that. And I'm watching how the flow works. And she's like, "That was a great concert, was it?" I was like, "That was really interesting. I learned a lot. Now I understand how they work that out, who's in charge of what, and everything like that." But that it could be ADD. I don't know, but I mean, like that's not really like a creative thing, but more just like I love what I do,
Yeah.
and no matter what. So it could be ADD.
Because for
I don't
me,
know. I think you said that to me last night, and I was like, you might be right.
that's it's been on like the forefront of my brain because there's so many projects and things I want to do and stuff and I don't know, like comparisons to Thief of Joy. So it's just like you look around at certain people who are like, well, they're able to do this and they got this going on and stuff too. And like I'm just here kind of just weeping and wallowing on my own projects and whatnot. So it's like a blessing and a curse having such a hyperactive brain and just like a very busy hands and stuff too. So I don't sometimes I don't know where I'm like, yeah, I'm super creative, or I'm like, I feel creative, or I just feel like I'm always distracting myself with projects.
I mean, so my philosophy has always been, and I just recently got affirmed on this philosophy, was I always like to have like five things in the fire at one time. So what happens is I start with A, and then I get burnt out and I move to B. And then if I get burnt out on that, I move to C. By the time I get through all five things, I'm back at A, and now I have a newfound perspective on A because I went through all the creative processes on everything else. And sometimes I'll get to B and I'll be stuck on B for months. And then I'll bail out. But the thing is that like it's always having other things in the fire so that if I ever feel like I'm becoming like is uncreative a word? If I ever lack creativity on an idea, then I can be able to go to something else and use my creativity there. And sometimes I'll just burn through all five in one day, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. But that's always been like kind of helped me through things. And people always like say, and I imagine they probably say it to you too, like, how do you do all of this stuff? And the reality is like I don't want to stop. So like I have to have other things to do. If I don't have those other things to do, then I'll be lost, or I'll just be sitting in my bedroom watching Breaking Bad for the 18th time, which I have been currently doing recently. But
Hey, it's not a bad thing.
no,
But that I like that analogy though of having like five things in the fire. And what was the first and earliest thing that you started kind of doing in the creative space?
um, I mean, first when I was a kid, I was obsessed with wrestling. and my parents used to buy me. I was obsessed with action figures, obviously,
hell
'cause
yeah,
I was a
yeah.
little boy. So I had all these wrestling figures and everything like that. And I went and I would stage them and take photographs of them in like these stages on like well, not Polaroid cameras, what the hell, the throwaway cameras.
Okay, yeah,
Disposables.
that's disposables.
So I used to take and develop those, and I would, and I don't know why I did that. I would just like I would tape them
Do
together.
you still have those
Nah,
photos?
I have no idea where those are, man. I wish. I actually, my mom may have something somewhere. I don't know. We've been through so many houses, and I've lived 8 lives since then. So it's like it's really hard to kind of nail all that stuff down. But
Right.
that was probably like the first real time that I remember actively creating. And then later on, it obviously spawned into music and everything like that.
Well,
but yeah, I never even thought about that as a creative thing. But yeah, that's what I
Yeah, I
used
mean,
to
just
do.
kind of even the analogy you said, like this painting would look really good over there. I mean, the fact that you're just like staging action figures in WWE in a certain fashion.
But it would be like wrestling, and then it would be like Dragon Ball Z, and it'd be
Yeah.
like, and then in my mind, I'd have to be like, okay, so why is Goku here with Sabu from the ECW? That doesn't make any sense. So I'd create this backstory.
You're building the ultimate super card of a fight.
But what I'm saying is like that was just ingrained into me, that like there had to be a reason for things, and creativity gave me a reason to do certain things.
Yeah, that's. I'm just picturing like Goku and like Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Just all wrapped up together. I would tape them to the like turnbuckles and stuff like that, and even have to like stage things outside because I would be worried about what's beyond it, or besides just like it's weird that's on a carpet. But I was probably like, I must have been like 8 or 9 when I was doing this, something like that. So
that was my question. So
Yeah.
8 or 9, and when did
must have been about that.
when did you pick up music or like playing an instrument? Because I know your dad was a singer songwriter, right?
Yeah, I started playing music when I was 13 years old. Yeah, so I think 15 was my first band. 13 was when, because my parents were like, I loved music. My dad kind of shoved a bunch of stuff down my throat as a kid, Beatles and stuff like that, and I got to the point where I was just like, I just don't want to listen to I don't like you, so I don't want to listen to your music. So, like that rebellious thing.
Dude.
So
yeah.
instead of rebelling by like doing drugs and stuff
Yeah.
like that, I listened to Slipknot. And like that was like my friend introduced me to them, and that was like for the first time I was like, this is my music. I had my dad listen to it. He's like, this isn't music, and I was like, fuck yeah, that's right. It's not music to you because you're old ass ears. So I became obsessed with music as just a listener, and then going from middle school to high school, my parents were like, you should join marching band. And I was like, fuck that, marching band.
Was that just like a random thing?
Because
like,
they wanted
you
me
like
to be a part of
music?
something.
Okay, yeah.
I wasn't a part of anything. I was hanging out with like trailer park kids, listening to Cold Chamber,
Yeah.
dressing in all black. They were worried about me for good reason. I guess some of the kids that I hung out with in middle school were not good kids, and they ended up being very not good kids, or not good people, adults.
Was that here in Boca? Or
Yeah. I grew up in West Boca, and most people were like, "Oh, West Boca, it's so nice," and it is nice.
Yeah.
I love West Boca, and I always want to move back there. To me, it's always been like, I think it's just like a childhood thing. It's always been just like
home.
It's beautiful,
Yeah.
and it's just like so well kept together, and it makes it safe and everything. Anyways, that's regardless of that.
I can go down that rabbit hole too.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, there's like something about it that we go back to creativity. Like, there is like this story that I've created about West Boca, that is just like this fantasy world that, I mean, real life still exists west of 441, but to me, it's like a little bit of fairy dust on it. And that has always been like, whenever I am having like a really, really bad day, I drive back there. And I don't know really anybody back there. Some people, I guess, but it's just like you go back there, and the ability to be able to go back to my hometown, even though hometown is technically Boca, West Boca, the ability to be able to go back there is great, because it's like you want, like, sort of unlock something, and then you're able to go back to real life.
Yeah.
Because I don't live there right now, but anyways, so like we were saying, my parents were a little worried about me and wanted me to be a part of something. So they asked me to go to marching band, and I was like, marching band's for nerds. Fuck that. I don't want to do that. So stupid. And they're like, just go to band camp. They're doing this open thing for the middle schoolers. I'm like, all right, whatever, I'll go. So I go, and I spent 4 years in marching band, and I loved it. I rave about it. I highly recommend it for anybody, any kids going into that have any type of understanding of music or want to be a part of music. Marching band taught me so much.
Do you remember like your first day or your first week kind of going into that? You're just like a music lover. You've never played an instrument at that point, or maybe you dabbled?
At that point in time, no, I didn't play. I got my first drum set my freshman year of high school, so it would be when I was already in marching band. So I remember bits and pieces of my first day. I remember, so the first person that I really met was my buddy Nick D.
Okay.
And we've been friends for 20
Oh,
years.
you met him in marching band.
He was my
Very
first friend in
cool.
high school. My first like high school friend.
Yeah.
And he's a year older than me. He was a sophomore, and he is in just to this day still one of like the most amazing musicians I've ever met. And he's seen me go through so many different stages in my life, and he's always been there for me, and he's always been a really, really good friend, and I'm very grateful to be able to still have him as a friend, especially with everything
so
that's gone
important. It
through.
speaks so much of his character.
He really he's like one of those people that like you be afraid to not have him in your corner. You know,
Yeah,
like there's
yeah,
like
yeah.
certain
Oh, yeah.
people that like, and even if you don't talk to them on a regular basis, you know that there's always the ability to be able to have that person as some type of springboard. He's like one of the most pragmatic human beings on the entire planet, and yeah, he's
Yeah,
just
I got
great.
the privilege to play with him when I was subbing in for Sierra Lane, like the first tour run that she was doing. I think I played guitar, he played keys,
yeah.
yeah, and then Keijo played bass, and I think Ryan Cross played drums. It was fun.
Yeah, right. Nick's a great dude, and he's just a great guy. But I mean, like he sort of welcomed me in and everything like that. We became very good friends from that. Obviously,
So you met in marching band.
net a marching band, and so meeting him was kind of like that was like I was like, okay, this isn't so bad. And I also was like, this guy's really cool. I really think he's like, I'm thinking there's like
got
all
that
fucking
aura.
nerds. And I come in, I'm like, this dude's awesome. And like, these people are kind of cool. And I came home from that first day, and mom's like, how do you like it? I'm like, all right, I'll go back.
Yeah.
And then obviously 4 years later, graduating high school, all 4 years I was in marching band. And I learned everything. You know, I had an amazing teacher. His name was Drew Tucker. And he was my percussion instructor. And I still talk to him every once in a while. He's an incredible musician. He lives in Atlanta now. He's plays vibraphone. That's like his main instrument.
Sick.
And he just recently, he had a video posted not too long ago where he played with Corey Wong when he came to Atlanta.
Yeah, damn.
He's like
Damn.
top fucking tier,
Yeah.
man. He's top tier. And he like during high school, like the hard times that I was going through with family shit, he would always take me to go see his band. He was in a band called A-Track Mind, and they used to play at Dada's in Del Rey.
Okay.
And they would play like every Friday or like every other Friday, and he would pick me up from my house and he would drive me out. I would sit there while he played and everything like that. So that was like my first introduction to like the bar scene or
Yeah,
whatever like
or
that.
just like live performance music. Like this exists in this area too.
Yeah, and I remember going there from that, and like those are like the moments. Like if it wasn't for marching band, I wouldn't be where I was today. I probably wouldn't have fucking survived.
What other stuff did marching band or like he teach you? Like, was it anything music theory related or?
Dear Lord, was it yeah, music theory. Yeah, they taught me a lot. I just didn't retain any of
Right,
it.
yeah.
I was one of those guys where like I didn't care about how the music. I didn't care about like the math of the music. Like that shit didn't. People were like, oh, but the C minor with the trips and the add nine. I'm like, I don't care. I just want to like how do my hands go?
Yeah.
Cool, got it. Okay, cool. I'll move on. Now I can do that other places. Cool, got it. Move on. I don't need you anymore. I've learned enough to be able to teach myself. So that's sort of the way I was. There was like I remember like my senior year playing. I was playing xylophone for some of these marching band bits, and he'd be like, you know the rhythms. Start on this note, end on this note, and just play straight 16th notes. And it doesn't make a difference. It's all fucking jazz, baby. As
Yeah.
long as I started on the right note and ended on the right note, it was fine. And he knew that, and that was one of the things. Like he understood what my limitations were, especially like personal limitations.
That's a great teacher.
Incredible teacher, and he understood what my limitations were, and that type of situation is sort of where where I got more confidence in myself because I knew that I can still be able to do things without having to know all of the ins and outs.
Yeah, because
it's definitely knowledge.
Sometimes even that's like almost like a brick wall in front of you. It's like, well, I don't know this huge piece of information, so that means I can't even get to the next stage or the next goal, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which kind of limits so many people. And then you even see like, I mean, Zach Bryan, that huge country singer right now. I mean, he's like, I only know a few chords. And then even Billy Strings, I saw an interview where he's just like, since I started getting bigger and bigger and then being around certain musicians in the studio, and I'm like, holy crap.
I don't know anything.
I don't know.
I watched an interview with him
anything.
where he was talking about his guitar teacher, and he was saying that exact same thing. He's like, I had to learn more because
Yeah.
I was in.
I think I saw the same thing.
Probably the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, I had to learn more because I was in these situations where I was like, God damn, like these guys are just playing circles around
Yeah.
me. And it's just, and that is the reality. And like, I have a hard time with that even now. Like, I don't really like we were in rehearsal last night.
Yeah.
And Royal and Marco were talking about like F sharp as a relative minor. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's like, I kind of understand what you're talking about. But on the other hand, I'm like, does it sound good?
Exactly. So like I understand the basis, but for Royal to even kind of like when we're
He's like a little bit of music theory. And I was like,
we're-
no, I'm not gonna know anything.
But
he's
I mean,
saying.
that's how I retain very much information of just learning by doing and
Yeah.
then just becoming into like a real world scenario where it's just like, hey, so you know this is the relative minor, but what if we kind of put it in this situation and made it major? Like you have the familiar sound and you're actually singing in that melody. Try it this way, and then you have those light bulb aha moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those happen when you surround, and it always goes back to surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yeah.
It's like if you surround yourself with the right people, then you can be able to have your ideas, and then that they can either be validated or reinforced by people that know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's always nice to have those kind of people in your
And
corner.
just
It's like working with Ben Childs.
Yeah.
Like
Oh.
working with Ben Childs, I never feel dumber.
Yeah.
Like, cause like I'll be like, I'll show him something, and he'll be like, well, you know, cause like if you listen to like Nina's Yard Party thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when that started, he was like, "Do you want to start a traditional ska band?" I'm like, "Yeah, sounds good." And he's like, "All right, I'm gonna write some songs." I'm like, "I'm gonna write some songs too." And then he came back to me with these like 15 done songs, and I was like, "All right, I guess I'm not writing anything." But these songs are like. He's so many chords, and mine are like 2 chords each. Because I'm like, it's a ska song.
Yeah,
It's like two
yeah.
2 chords, like 3 chords at max. And he's got all these technical stops and everything like that. I'm like, man, like
And a sense of melody too.
he just thinks on a totally different level, and it's because like he's got the music theory ingrained in him, plus the creativity
Plus,
of it.
he's from across the pond.
Well, that's also
Yeah.
true. You can't understand 90% of the things he's saying. Was it
love you, Ben.
Yeah, very much so. That's why when I was worried when the Killbillies went over, I was like, I said to Hector, please don't come back talking like
my
Ben,
God.
because then we won't be able to have conversations anymore. But yeah, but he has that music theory sense as well as the creativity sense, so he's able to apply it on both sides.
Yeah.
And it's great. And like I love being able to work with people like that. But I also love with people like that are just like pure creatives that don't really have an understanding of why it sounds right, but it just does. And to me, it's not like I'm not shitting on people with music theory or that have an understanding of music theory. It's great. You should
Oh,
have it.
absolutely.
But I will say that I found more satisfaction working with people that have better feeling than knowledge. And I think that kind of works in most artistic senses. It's like you're dealing with the true sense of the art because it's simply emotion.
The sense of curiosity and just having an open mind too is so huge. But that's why it goes back to just surrounding yourself with the importance of surrounding yourself with good people. Because having an open mind, I mean, I feel like I've suffered from it, where it's just like people just feel like they can just kind of put anything in there too, and depending on just like who you are as a person, how confident you are, and if you're able to stand on your own 2 feet, and what you're able to kind of take in, sort of thing. So that's why kind of being around positive people or people that just trying to all work towards the same goal and uplift rather than kind of being scolded for not knowing something.
Yeah.
Or just like, let me kind of tell you this because of my own bias of like, this is just how it has to be. Because I've written songs with certain people. It's like, what if we did something like this? Like, well, that doesn't make sense because it doesn't really follow the circle fits. And then it just sounds so weird. But I'm like, well, can we just try it? Can we just try it? And if it's weird,
Can we just try it? We'll be on my fucking gravestone.
Yeah.
Like, that is like the amount of times that I've been in that situation. I'm like, I understand what you're saying. I know that you know so much, but can we just try it?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I just want to hear it. And if you're right, you're right. That's fine. But it's like, and that goes into, that's another thing from marching band that I learned about that I did not apply until like the last 5 years is the teamwork aspect of it, and understanding how to be able to be a good leader, how to be able to understand how to be a good bandmate, business partner, in the sense. I mean, nowadays it's like, it used to be you just a good bandmate. Now you have to be a good business partner as well, because the music business itself it's what it is.
And just a good
It's
person
not
to
on
hang
somebody
around.
else.
Yeah, and
Well,
just
it's
to
also
kinda-
too
yeah.
like also being like just like a genuine good person to be around is.
Because how many musicians have you played with that are just incredible, just ready to play, but you just off stage, you just kind of, it just doesn't really click a little bit, or maybe they kind of have an ego compared to somebody who is maybe not at that crazy level, but they do the job and they do the job well, and they're just incredible to hang out with. So like that is way more reciprocated on stage too. Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where like I will always work with someone with passion over talent. Because talent, anything, like if you want to draw, you can learn to draw. If you want to put the time in to draw. But the difference between somebody who is extremely talented and somebody who wants to be that talented, somebody can be able to fall into it and to have a natural knack for something. And then that can create an ego, because it's like you just picked up a guitar and you just figured it out. Like it just clicked with you. Now you know all this stuff because you're a virtuoso or whatever like that. But there's people that are like, I want to learn this, and they will go and do the time to learn it. And I think that's what separates a lot of people. And I mean, like Joe Demery plays bass with The Shake, plays bass with More Better Man. He is a guitar player. He has a vast knowledge of different things that I do not have the knowledge of. When he first started playing bass, it was rocky because he wasn't a bass player. But he put in the time and effort to be able to figure out his style and everything like that. And anytime I asked him to be somewhere, he just said when.
That's huge.
And like that, him and Aquila, the reason why The Shake worked as a band so well is because there was just an understanding that it was everything that we were doing was for the band. Like everything we did, there was always a bigger purpose to it. And they never asked me any questions of why we were doing it. They would say, obviously, we have a show, it pays nothing. They say, what time do we load in? Like, and those are the type of people that I would much rather work with.
Oh, of course.
Than the people that are like massively talented and be like, well, technically I get $100. Like, you have to understand something is that like, you're not Taylor Swift, so this shit is not going to work the way you want it to work. I understand that there's people that deserve more money than other people, but when you're looking to bring your art to the world, it's always going to be a very, very limited financial like uptick until it's not.
Exactly. When it comes to like the action, the work effort, I played soccer all through high school, and like one like mantra quote that I always thought, because I wasn't the great. I only played soccer because I saw like all my friends playing it. I'm like, they can do it. I mean, I want to exercise and kind of do something different. It just was I think an NFL coach said it's like hustle beats talent when talent can't hustle. So it's just learning how to kind of be in the room and outwork the room sort of thing. That would just knock open so many more doors. But even going back to you and kind of like finishing marching band in your like your end of your senior year.
I just have a tendency to talk about other people all the time. I apologize.
Dude, I'm the same way. That's
I love the people that I work with. I love the people that I work with so much, and I love the people that I met. And if I'm going to talk about me, I have to talk about them,
dude. Of course,
because they're if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be me.
Yeah.
So
no, dude.
So I apologize. I keep skipping off on other people.
Dude, do not apologize for giving people flowers, because I mean that's kind of like why I wanted to even just start this podcast. It's just because I believe everyone's creative, and I have the urge and the ability and just connecting with people. Creativity and connection are the two things I love in life, and I always funnel it in my passion, which is music.
Yeah.
But going back to you.
Yeah.
So finishing marching band is, and then you're saying that you kind of got like an idea of like this world of like kind of playing music out, like if it's the bar band scene and stuff. So did you kind of immediately right out of high school go to college and start playing music, or did you play music and start a band?
So I started my first band I was ever in was my freshman year of high school. It was before I even had a drum set, and I knew that I wanted to play drums. I had played on a Pillows many, many times. And a buddy of mine, Dan Gutner, which I'm still friends with today.
From Copper Tones.
Yeah,
right?
Copper Tones. Yeah. He was in my first band. We were in our first bands together.
Love that guy. Great guy. Anyways, about you. Continue.
Fucking love Dan, man. I love Dan. Dan's one of the. God damn it, here we go again. But Dan's one of those people. Like same thing, sort of Nick. Like I don't have as great of a relationship with Dan as I do with Nick, because Nick with Love Potion Studios, like I work with Nick on a regular basis. But Dan has always been like, if I need him, I can call him. He'll be there, kind of guy. And we've kept in touch this entire time. But my first band I was ever in was with Dan. We were called Stick Figure Action Doll. And how I got into the band was I literally showed up at our singer Brian's house, who and they were like, I hear you play drums. I lived across the street from Dan, and he's like, I heard you play drums. I'm like, yes, I do. I did not really. And they're like, show me what you got. And I played the loudest and the fastest that I could play, like a fucking bullet. And they were like, you're in. I'm like, great. And then I went home and I was like, guys, I need a drum set, because I can't, what am I supposed to do now? So I started my first band and kind of brought into that. And then from there, I was in another band in high school called the Fondue Crew. And this was like the band that set me on the path. And this was a ska band. At our largest amount, we were 10 people. We even had a guy that danced around in a Spam costume.
Wait. A 10-piece band?
10-piece band. We had 3 trumpets, saxophone, trombone, guitar, lead and rhythm, drums. I just sang at the time.
Where would you guys practice? That's a lot of people.
We actually practiced at our trombone player. I lived in one place called Timberwalk 2, and he lived in Timberwalk 1, which was like right across the lake. And we had this like pool house, like like most
like a community
you rent it
center or
out,
something.
yeah. So back in the day, they were way more lenient about that shit. So we would literally rent it out for band practice, and we would, if it wasn't in my garage at my house, we would rehearse there, and we were all band kids for the most part. So it was just we had this band, and it was called the Fondue Crew. And we played the very first time that we played the talent show my sophomore year of high school or junior year of high school, I think it was, and we won. And then we came back senior year and we won again. And then we played a couple of the Battle of the Bands and we won. We never did any touring or anything like that, but we played shows. We had a following. We had made these shirts. And like back in the day in high school, like you're talking about like 2003, a band with T-shirts was like, you were the shit. Like you had T-shirts. And the school actually did this thing called Fondue Friday, where on a Friday, everybody wore their Fondue Crew shirts, including the lunch ladies had them on and everything like that. It was pretty cool. And that was like my first taste of like, damn, like this could actually like be something.
Well, and having support.
Yeah,
in that direction is huge, and real support too.
Support.
You're not forcing people to wear these shirts; they're voluntarily doing it.
This was the school that did it.
That's
school,
huge.
West Boca High School, did Fondue Friday.
That's awesome.
And we played during the lunch hour. Everybody wore their shirts. It was bizarre. It was very fucking bizarre. I got to be honest. And I look back at it now, I'm like, God damn, like that was crazy. But that moment was where I was like, I could do this for the rest of my life. Like, if I could do this in a high school, I could do this everywhere. I mean, now 20 years later, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
But that's sort of like what my mentality is now, is what I learned then. Like that sense of community, that sense of support is what people need to move themselves to the next level. And there's so much going on now. It's really hard to know, as a person who supports other people, where your support needs to lie. Because even like musicians bitch all the time, artists bitch all the time. We have to be in so many different places at once. We have to do so many things. Think about the people consuming. Think about how much shit they have to consume. You're asking, especially me, I'm in like 5 projects. So now if you're friends with me, I'm telling you that I'm on this band, this band, this band. I'm playing with you. I'm playing with this guy that's in there. And everyone's like, oh my God, another fucking project. So for the people, it's really hard too. So you have to create that community where everybody supports everybody. Mm-hmm. And like that happened in high school for me and sort of sent me on my way from there. But I was in that band until it ended.
What made it end?
High school.
Yeah.
High school ended, so it was over. I tried to keep it going. Me, the saxophone player, and the bass player started another band called Secondhand Superheroes after high school. And then,
these are all incredible band names too, dude.
Secondhand Superheroes, I don't think was my idea. I honestly don't think I named a band until The Shake. I think that was the first band I ever actually like named. Mm-hmm. And then when I got out of high school, I was playing in a band called Scuff Shoes, and they were a ska band from around here, played around here a lot. And they asked me, "We need a bass player. Can you play bass?" And I was like, "Yeah." No idea. So they're like, "Well, here's the songs. Here's our MySpace. Here's the songs." So, or they gave me a CD or something like that, and I was listening to it. And they were like, "I'm like, cool, yeah, I can play. All right, cool, we're going on tour." I'm like, "When?" "This weekend." "Okay." Quit my job. I had worked at this restaurant for years. I turned around to my boss. I'm like, "I quit." He's like, "Why?" I'm like, "Gotta go on tour."
Yeah.
This is what I was built to do. So we went on tour. We played maybe 3 out of like the 18 dates that we were supposed to do, and the band broke up. And
Wait,
then
only 3 out of the 18?
yeah, there was like a huge
Because
thing. It was a
drama,
financial
band-
thing,
oh, okay,
and it
yeah.
was just like it all fell apart. Came back. We put the band back together. Different iterations. I brought in some of my guys. Nick D did play. Almost every single band that I've been in, I've always been like, "Hey Nick, what are you doing?" That kind of thing. I haven't bugged him about that in a long time. He's probably very thankful for that. But yeah, so he played for a little while. I brought in some of my old buddies from my old band in the Fondue crew. And we did that for a little while and then kind of bounced around. And then the first band that I really felt like I had a shot with was with Nick. And there was around the corner from here, there used to be a venue called Precision Wave Studios.
Okay.
And it was short-lived. Our buddy Richard owned it. And he was just like a kid. Like I think he's younger than me. And he was friends with this guy, Marcus, who plays in this band now called the Marauders, and Nick, who I knew. And we had played, I think Scuff Shoes played a show there, and we met Richard, and Richard's like, "Oh, you got to come hang." And like this was like a young guy my age who owned a venue. Like it was full sound, lights, the whole smoke machines, the whole entire thing. So we're like, "Yeah, come hang out." So he's like, "This is my buddy Marcus." And we met, and I brought Nick in, and we just got up on stage, and we just jammed. And we jammed for hours and hours and hours. And then we're like, "You should make this a band." So we made it into a band. It was called Tri-Funk Point. And that weirdest name out of all of them, definitely. And
I was going to say Scuff Shoes for ska band.
perfect. Yeah.
Primo.
Yeah.
And what was it?
Tri-Funk Point.
Tri-Funk Point. Sounds kind of
Yeah.
like jam band meets
So it was jam band. It was very jammy. We used to play. So Boca Fat Cats now used to be called Board Riders.
Okay.
And it was owned by this dude that was friends with Kelly Slater, and he was like California guy and everything like that. And he came in and he put his place there, and we played there every Friday night for months on end.
Oh, hell
and
yeah.
we would go in there we knew 3 songs, but we would just jam for hours. And they would feed us tequila and cocaine, and it was great. We had a great time. And it was fantastic. And that kind of turned into them. It was just the 3 of us. It was just guitars, keys, and drums.
oh damn, a nice power trio.
Yeah. So Nick
I
was
get
taking,
it. That's the tri-effect. Okay, yeah.
so that's the try.
Yeah.
The funk was a lot of it. Marcus he came from the band that he was in prior was very like Red Hot Chili Peppers type. So he brought in the funk. And the point, I'm not sure how we came to that. We ended up describing it as the name was, so it's Tri-Funk Point. Tri 3, funk has 4 letters. 3 plus 4 is 7, and there's 7 points in a marijuana leaf. Yeah, we were super stoners when we made that band.
That's fucking
Yeah. So that was our explanation every time we talked about that band. But that was like Marcus is an incredible guitar player, incredible songwriter, incredible singer. Fuck, he's so good. And then Nick on keys, obviously, and then I was just playing drums and I was singing as well. But we had got an opportunity to open up for the Supervillains. And we had opened up for the Supervillains when we were in Scuff Shoes, and this was up in Gainesville. And I remember
it High
sitting
Dive?
down. No, this was a Market Street Pub, it was called. I
Okay.
don't think it's there anymore. I remember after, or like before the show, we went to their van, and they showed us, Dom showed us, their recording of Moving Out before it was released.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, well, and then immediately we're like, so we're stealing that cover? All of us like, yeah. That was like our number 1 cover we always went to.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that was like, and I saw Dom, and I was like, this dude is playing drums and he's singing lead.
Yeah.
I was like, this is dope. So when I saw that and we started Tri-Funk, I was like, I'm going to do that. So that was like, it was me and Marcus that were.
When did you start singing? Just the moment you started
Singing?
kind of playing out a little bit, or
The singing started in Fondue Crew, so like my sophomore year of high
just
school.
like harmonies, or just kind of lead?
No, I was the
leading
lead
stuff?
singer.
Oh, okay, okay.
Oh, because I was playing drums, and then I wanted to write, and I was like fucking around with guitar, this, that, and
Yeah.
the other, but I didn't really know. But I was like, I can't be a songwriter and be the lead singer and be the drummer. That
Yeah.
seems stupid. So I was like, I need to go up front, but I didn't really know how to play guitar. So I fumbled some shit. I'd hand it over to the guitar player. The guitar player would play it, and then I would just sing. I was just the lead singer.
Yeah.
I was bouncing around, jumping around, doing all the bullshit and everything like that, being a ska band frontman. And I had a great time. I love doing it. I miss doing it. I really do.
Did anyone kind of lead you in like a singing way of just like not lessons, or
No,
just kind of with
no,
people?
no,
You
no,
just-
no. It was terrible, and everybody loved
Yeah.
it. I was like, I was listening to a lot of like Newfound Glory and Good Charlotte at the time, so like the nasally.
It's like imitation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I was
Yeah.
doing, and it worked. And like
Yeah.
the thing is that like we were such a force of nature because we were 10 fucking people.
Yeah.
that it
Oh,
was like
yeah.
you couldn't like
The
even if
confidence
I
is
was
with your
that
number. Yeah. with the
and
people
I
on
was jumping.
stage.
I was a madman as a front man. So. And because like if anybody's seen the Shake, they've seen
You're still
like,
a madman
I
as a
go
front
crazy, but like I have a guitar on me now.
Yeah.
When I didn't, I was all over the place, all over the place. I was rolling on the floor. I was jumping in the crowd. I was like, you ever seen the band Young Cassidy?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So Raul is one of the best frontmen I've ever seen. Not even in the local scene, one of the best frontmen I've ever seen. He has such a command of the crowd. But that was me in high school. I'm
Yeah.
too old for that shit now. I cannot be rolling on the ground. That'd send me into traction for the next couple of weeks. But yeah, so that was when I first started sort of singing, and then I was really bad for a really long time. And Tri-Funk was when I started honing it, got a little bit better and stuff like that. But it really wasn't up until I don't know about 5 years ago that I really felt like confident in singing.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, yeah, I'm a singer. That's what I do.
It's funny because I asked that question to a few lead singers in the area that I feel like that are so uniquely themselves too. They seem like they're exactly where they need to be. And I'm like, where did that come from? Because I remember my first journey kind of doing it. Oh my God, it just like took so long to just like get those battle scars and get that confidence and just kind of like feel comfortable in my presence. But everyone says 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Like just straight answer. Oh, when it took 4 to 5 years. I'm like, damn, okay. And
Yeah.
then you kind of blink and it already happens.
Yeah, I mean, I started singing in like 2002 on a regular basis, and then yeah, it wasn't up until about 4 or 5 years ago
Yeah.
is when I felt confident.
Yeah.
So it took me way longer than 4 to 5 years to
Because your
actually
sense
feel
of
confident.
melody and catching on harmonies too. That's like my thing I'm really trying to work on, just finding a good harmony. But I feel like you really crafted that skill, and I know it takes a lot of time.
Well, I
and-
spent time. One of the things going back to Tri-Funk Point, Marcus is an incredible singer, and Nick, actually, back to Nick again. Nick has an incredible ear for harmonies, and he sent me a lot of those. And
Okay.
like when we were doing Tri-Funk stuff, he wasn't really singing. He does some singing now, and he's I love him to death. He has some songs that he's recorded that he hasn't released where he does these incredible harmonies, and it's like 18 stacked on top of each other, and it's like lows and highs and mids and fifths and sevenths, and because he's a piano player,
Yeah.
he thinks differently when it comes to that kind of stuff. And he used to feed me this stuff, and I'd be like, "Fuck, like, how did you think of that?" And just it's like muscle memory. Like if you know. There's a difference between somebody who went and learned how to do something at school or spent their entire life doing it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So like if you read about it, then you have a theoretical sort of approach to it. But if you've done it, you have a physical approach to it. You have you know that's what it is. So I kind of, because of Nick and Marcus and everything like that, I was able to hone that. So now I hear things, but also too, like, I don't know if you do this. I know a lot of people do it. When I'm in the car by myself and I'm singing, I'm usually never singing the actual melody. I'm always singing the harmonies. I just like, that is my go-to. I always just jump to the harmonies because I'm curious, because those parts are already there. And the harmonies are in there but a lot of times they're buried unless you listen to certain types of music.
Right.
But my go-to is always singing the harmonies. And I do that all the time. And now my dad used to say this to me all the time, and I'm like, "Fuck you, Dad." He's like, the harmonies are everything. That's what makes the song. Doesn't make a difference if the song is good or bad. If there's harmonies in it, the harmonies will make it. And I was like, whatever, dude. He was fucking right.
Yeah,
100% right. And that's the reason why the Beatles were so popular too, is because their sense of harmony was incredible. And so many other bands like that because of the harmonies. And if you have a band that has a singer and nobody's harmonizing with them, the melodies could be the best melodies in the world and they won't travel
They
as
just,
far.
I feel yeah, exactly. They fall flat a little
Yeah.
bit.
And a lot of people do that in the studio and then don't do it live. And I think that's a sin.
Yeah.
Find somebody that can sing.
Yeah.
You have to have multiple singers in a band. It's like not even a fucking option anymore.
Yeah.
Because you got to stand out. And like harmonies are the thing. That's what separates, and that's what separates a lot of, like when More Better plays with some reggae bands don't do harmonies. There's some that just sing the straight, or they just double.
Such a disservice.
It
The
is.
doubling's okay.
Double's fine.
but-
It definitely gives it more gravitas.
Yeah.
You know, but when Aquila and I have found a rhythm that he's not a guy that sang, and he was just like, this goes back to why I love him so much. He was just like, I know a little bit how to sing. I got an idea. What are the things you want me to do? And I tell him, and he's like, all right, I'll work on it. And he did. And he comes in, and even in the shake tunes, like he's singing harmonies. Joe has an incredible voice. I wish he would use it more. And like he found, so now we were doing like 3-part harmonies and these like hardcore breakdowns. People are like, what is happening? And it's like, but it wasn't about the music. It was about the harmonies. Like, because the people are listening to the vocals for the most part. Most people are not listening to the music. So when they're listening to it and they hear these harmonies, like, oh wow, this is soothing. It's really nice for the ears. But that kind of came with working with Marcus and Nick, and then sort of carried over into a bunch of other different bands.
I always wondered that with just singing, harmonies, musicianship, and then confidence and stage presence.
Yeah, confidence is the hardest part.
Yeah.
Because you can learn all that stuff, you can be good at all that stuff, but the confidence is everything. Like now, there's enough people that be like, will come up to me, and it sounds so cocky and I hate this, but they'll come up to be like, you're really good. And I love that. That's
Yeah.
great. But that affirmation is like, I've been looking for that my entire life. And like up until the last 4 or 5 years, I never believed anybody when they said it. And now when they say it, I'm like, you know what? I'm pretty good. I'm not amazing, and not saying that I can't get better 100%, and I will always work on getting better, but I'm not who I used to be.
Yeah.
And that's made a huge step in where I am in even speaking about music. I feel more confident in where I am as a musician now than I ever have in my life.
Yeah, I agree to that for sure. Writing music, being around different musicians too, just seeing what has been socially accepted, but also mainstream accepted, but also just like locally and regionally accepted too. How everybody's gravitated to so many different things, and then you peel the curtains back a little bit too, and that person's just like, I literally just learned 3 chords yesterday, and then just had these poetry things, and then just opened my mouth.
Yeah.
And the song came out.
Yeah, and I love that. But that's going back to what we were talking about before. That's the emotional sense to it, and music and art, film especially too. It's supposed to evoke emotion, and if you approach it with emotion, then the other end should be the same way.
Yeah.
If you approach it theoretically, you may, through science, get some type of emotional reaction because, you know, they say it's like the reason why they paint McDonald's, you know, yellow and red is because it makes you eat your food and get the fuck out of there. So like there's science behind that. This will make you feel good. G major makes you feel good. People's chord, you know what I mean? So there's science behind it, but if you just play a G major and just sing some fucking notes, it's fine. But if there's emotion, even if people like someone like Daniel Johnston couldn't sing in key, but the music that he was writing and the words were so emotional, they came from such a true place, it didn't fucking matter. And like even Bob Dylan didn't have a great voice, but the music and the words. Now people will argue saying he has a great voice, but whatever, it is what it is.
I know exactly what you mean though. Yeah.
But you know what I mean? The emotion came, and the emotion came through the music.
The
and people-
emotion, but especially with Bob Dylan too, it's like the emotion, but the package, the aesthetic, the vibe, and also just like the right moment in time. It's
Yeah.
like really capturing
There's
lightning in a
so
bottle.
many things
It's
that have
just
to happen.
So many little elements too that just really kind of fine point hit it right there on the spot too. Well, even kind of going back to your journey of kind of evolving as a musician and then going through these different bands too and learning and growing. When did the Shake kind of come in?
So I've told the story 1,000 times, so I'm not going to give this guy any more pub. But we were in a band before, and he kind of milked me for all of my songwriting abilities, and then tossed me away. And I was in that band with Aquila was the drummer prior to me, and when we would play some shows, he would fill in and stuff like that. And then Joe was he would just kind of like hang around the shows and like eat french fries off of people's plates and stuff like that, and then they'd be like, come up and play guitar, and he would play guitar and he would sing these Revolution songs, and he was great. And I was like, this kid's fucking great. And then they fired the bass player, and they were like, hey, do you want to play bass in the band? He was like, fuck yeah. He like quit his very good job to go like be on tour with us and everything like that. I watched him do these things and be like, this is what I did, and I fucked up, and I wanted to be like, but I wasn't in a position. I was like newly sober,
Yeah.
so like I wasn't in a position to start like fixing other people. Now I'm
Uh-huh.
like, you got to do what you got to do, man. Like, you know, this is what you feel like you're.
I can relate to that.
You know
a
what I
lot,
mean?
yeah.
Like, it's like there's a point in time, like now I feel like if that situation were in front of me now, it'd be different. I'd be like, hey man, you know, think about your priorities. But at that point in time, I didn't even have my fucking priorities straight. So I wasn't anybody to be giving any advice. But so after after they kicked us out and everything like that, Joe and Aquila kind of were just like, you know, like we need to start a band. I was like, no, fuck that. I don't want to do that. I literally just went through this whole entire situation. I was like, I don't know really what I want to do. Bug, poke, poke, poke. And I'm like, fine, fuck it. Let's just do it. So we started a reggae band again called The Shake. And we started playing. And I was like, this is fucking boring. And then I was like, Aquila, what do you like listen to? And he's like, he used to be in like a new metal band. And like Joe is into like, at the time was like really into reggae, but he was like into like a lot of jam bandy shit. And my stuff was like all the pop punk stuff. So I was like, why don't we do something more like that? And we did, and it turned into, you know, what it is now, and just wound up being this steamrolling machine for a couple of years. And but yeah, it just kind of came out of, I was tired of being bugged about starting this band. I said, fuck it, let's just do it.
Yeah.
And it was a great decision.
And your journey leading you just being kind of in different bands, starting to do certain stuff, and nothing.
I played in
like,
so many
yeah,
different
nothing-
genres.
I had no idea, honestly.
I was a lead singer of a screamo band for a while.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, there's videos. There's videos on YouTube of that shit. Playing at
Pull 'em
Talent
up.
Farm. Playing at Talent Farm. Yeah, I was in a band called Karma Kills, and that was like right after high school too, after the second ska band fell apart. And I did some screaming. We also had a guy that screamed.
Yeah.
But we played some
Right out of high
cool-
school, you started kind of playing out, and then just kind of working odd jobs. You go to college, or
No, I didn't go to college.
okay.
No. I enrolled at Palm Beach State when it was Palm Beach Community College. I went to the orientation, and they said, everybody stand up and say something about yourselves. And I had this flashback of high school because I did not have a good time in high school, aside from marching band. And I stood up and I walked out, and I never went back.
Dude, I hate that moment, and I don't know why. Because I went to Palm Beach State too,
Mm-hmm.
and even the first day of certain classes, they were just like, stand up and say something about yourself.
Yeah.
And I would stand up and be like, my name's Jacob, and public speaking freaks me out. And
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
sit down.
But here
And
I am.
Someone in the back would be like, dude, I saw you playing last week somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I do not want to be like this in college. I just want to get my C and get my degree. And
Yeah. I just like, my mind was, I'm gonna be in the band.
yeah,
That's what I'm gonna do. And now, like, there's a bunch of kids that I went to high school with that are like fucking doctors and lawyers and shit like that, and I'm here still doing this. But recently, I found more of a purpose for it than I ever did before.
yeah.
And that's kind of like been kind of keeping me afloat.
How
which
did
has
you
been nice.
how did you find that purpose?
Ben and Hector and Justin over Live Music Community. They when I saw what they were doing, I mean, like, I'd gotten sober August of 2020, like just as the pandemic was ending here. I don't know about everywhere else, but it was ending here. And so the sort of end of the pandemic here, I got sober, and I wasn't really playing with anybody, obviously, because it was, you know, and then I started playing solo shows as a looper. And then I met Ben and Hector for something, and I watched the podcast, and all of a sudden I was like, at first I was looking at the podcast, I'm like, this is a great tool. I can now watch all of these people tell me their entire story, tell me everything about how they do things, and then steal all their ideas. I'm such a fucking genius.
Wow.
And then I thought to myself, that's fucking maniacal. Like, why would I do that? The reality is I need to learn about these people, and then we all work together.
Yeah, it's nice to see what the community is and their voice too.
And that's the great part about the 561 Music Podcast, is that it gives the opportunity for everybody to really take a look at what other people are doing, how other people are approaching things, and it really opens your mind. And there was some, I mean, like Adria from 33 Lions, their episode was so incredible, and like we've become very good friends after that because she was so open, and like that interview gave me such confidence to be more open to be open to you even today about certain things in my life. Like if you would have asked certain questions, I wouldn't feel uncomfortable about answering them. Luckily, not a lot of stuff is online about my life, so that works out. But
Your episode was great too. The
yeah, it was
561,
fun.
yeah.
I have no problem talking. I
Well,
love talking.
The main thing of your episode I really enjoyed, dude, the performance was killer.
Oh yeah, I think that was.
You did Baby Blue.
So now is a more better band song, but yeah,
you
that
did
was.
that one.
I forgot I had
but
that
like,
one.
yeah, your ability to loop harmonies, the beatboxing was good,
Oh, thank
very good. I mean,
you.
it's that's
That's
such
dub
a
FX,
that is
man.
such a certain thing where I'm like, is this gonna be good or cringy? And I'm like, okay, good,
Yeah,
good, we're in.
I do it to a point where it's not where it's I do it enough
yeah,
so that I don't go overboard. Like
Yeah.
I'm not like
tasteful.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just enough just to be able to get me
So
through.
that did you kind of hone in on those skills during the pandemic when we had the time?
Yeah, so just as the pandemic hit, I was playing a band, a ska cover band called Brass Knucklehead, and we when the pandemic hit, I was like, I have no idea if I'm going to play in a band again, so I have to figure out what I'm going to do post this because we were so uncertain what the world was going to be. So I went on to Sweetwater. I got myself a Sweetwater credit card, and I bought the RC505, and it got delivered just as everything shut down. And I spent the entire pandemic learning how to use it. And then when we emerged outside of the pandemic, I got my first gig using the looper, and then now it's my main bread and butter.
Was that your first solo gig
ever
out of
in my life?
Really?
Yeah. The first time, and I only started playing bar shows maybe about 2 years before the pandemic hit.
Wow.
I had never played anymore because I was like, I'm a fucking artist.
Yeah.
I don't play other people's songs, and I still have a way about that now. But I also I'm a realist as well,
Yeah.
and I have fucking bills to pay, and I know I can make money and good money.
Well,
doing it.
I didn't realize
So-
how such a blessing we are, specifically being in this area in Florida and Palm Beach County. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, when the pandemic hit, I had a lot of my friends around the country like, hey, man, I see that you're gigging as a solo guy. And yeah, I was gigging during the pandemic to pay my bills.
fuck yeah, it was. I had goddamn bills
Yeah,
to pay.
that's a whole other conversation of who
I have no shame.
shaming and not shaming. But
That moment when I got the call, been like, "Hey, are you available?" I couldn't have said yes faster.
dude, I wanted to play. I need to pay my bills, but also
man.
some of these places were like, we want to show that we are open. We don't want a full band because we don't want people to congregate.
local businesses, too, that are dying.
Yeah, we're still trying to kind of like figure this pandemic out, just like
Yeah.
everybody else. We have this much of a budget. Are you able to? I'm like, if you're able to work with me, I'm able to work with you.
Yeah.
And then venues still today have recognized that and mentioned that like behind the scenes too. We're like, dude, I remember that moment you were like willing to work with us.
Dude,
too, and we're willing to work
it
with you.
sucks that it happened. It set me up for what I am
Yeah.
today, though. Like if it wasn't for my first of all my ability to agree to very little money because I wasn't doing it, so I
Yeah.
was like, any money you're gonna pay me, I'm fucking in.
Yeah.
So my ability to agree to very little money and the willingness to go out into public essentially set me up for what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
So I mean, like it sucks, but like that's where my for me my career quote unquote started.
But dude, yeah, I had so many people like during that time like reach out to me saying, is it worth me buying a plane ticket or just coming to Florida to spend a weekend to try to hustle and get some gigs just so I can go home to be able to play music and get money? And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's a big ask. I just will say this is what I'm doing. I can't really kind of say
Yeah,
that about
I had
somebody
buddies
else.
in New York and California that were having a hard time.
But that opens so
specifically.
many doors and like the creatives and the survivors or
I met a lot of
however you
people
wanna
because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Well, see, like I met you during the pandemic via Facebook because I was doing the Social Distance
Yeah.
Festival, and you had played maybe more than once, I believe. But that was how I knew I had met like Dominic. I met Dominic doing that, and we did like the Play for Prop, which was the live stream festival. And
Joey Caldereo was somebody who was doing so much during that time too.
Joey was on
Really
that
Make
festival.
the most out of his time.
He really he was one of the guys that I saw. Him and Victoria Lee were the two people that
So good.
I was watching. I was like, man, like this could be like honed into something. But that Social Distance Festival turned out. I had Josh Radner from How I Met Your Mother fame. He was on the Social Distance Festival at a point in time, and he was out in California. He sent in a video to be live streamed. And like it was a bizarre time in my life.
That part of like broadcasting, delegating, setting stuff up, and it actually being successful. And I mean, I remember it. I didn't even make the connection until you kind of brought that up like the other day. I'm like, shit, you are right. That was you.
That was me,
Sort
yeah.
of thing. And it was such a valuable, good time for me as a musician in that time. So how do you do it? How did you piece that together? Because I know you have a broadcasting background.
Yeah, yeah. So it was really just like I was just driving home one day and I was like, somebody should do a live stream music festival. And then I just did it. And that's that simple, really. It was I knew that there was a way to be able to do it. I had to work out the machinations of like how people would log in and everything like that. That was really the hardest part. But the idea of just like reaching out to people and like building this thing, but it was supposed to be like a one weekend thing. It was like a 1 day thing. And I put out this thing, want to do a live stream festival. Is anybody interested? And I got a bunch of people that responded. And I put together the one. And then halfway through it, all of these other people started messaging me and being like, hey, I'd like to do this too. And I was like, all right, well, Friday turns into Saturday. Saturday turns into Sunday. And then it was like I was doing like these one-offs on like Monday where it's just like one artist for like 2 hours on the thing. And it reached out. I think the page is still alive now. And I think it has like 13,000 people that follow it.
Damn.
Because we just kept going and going and going and all this interaction. So Facebook obviously was like, this is great. So we're just gonna keep pumping this up to the front. And then on top of it, I started reaching out to people in California, reaching out to people in New York that had no chance of doing anything.
Right.
And they were coming on. So now like these communities in New York, communities in California, communities in where else was like Texas and stuff like that, they were all getting a part of this platform. And I really snowballed into something I didn't think it was going to be. But that sort of like was like the precursor to all the bullshit that I'm doing now with like booking and everything like that. Like that sort of like started all that. But it was really just like I was just driving with my wife and I was like, somebody should do a live stream thing. She's like, yeah, that's a good idea.
And then you start thinking.
And I just did it, and then it was like a bubble. Then all of a sudden, everything started bubbling, and then it just turned into that. But yeah, it was pretty cool, and I met a lot of people. But for so long, up until recently, I knew who people were, like you. I knew you. We had spoken. But I never met you in person. And I going through and like it would be like, oh, it's nice to finally meet you. That was like the thing I was saying on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Joey Caldereo, nice to finally meet you. Victoria Lee, nice to finally meet you. But these people that I've interacted with so much because of the Social Distance Festival.
Yeah, and then even fast forward to just like stuff like what Ben and Hector doing with 561 Music Festival, and just like even what Joey's doing, Joey Bag of Donuts, like for all of our kind of like working gigging musicians and everyone on these different life schedules in the area being able to kind of just come together one day and play music and just kind of interact. That's why when Marco at the Joey Festival was walking around, people was like, I think I'm in a group chat with you and like 700 other people about just this random project that was spoken about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
But anyways, nice to meet you.
Yeah. It's weird. So the Social Distance Festival kind of gave me this idea that it's not as hard as it looks. Like people are always like, how are you putting it? You know, it seems so hard to put all this. It's like really not. Like a lot of the stuff that I'm doing is like not fucking hard. And a lot of times, like I do this monthly show. I just book it at AUIC in Delray, and it's like the punk rock brunch. And I've been doing it for over a year now, and it's successful. Does well.
It looks sick. It looks
Does
fun.
Well. And then they started doing it at another venue, and somebody texted me, be like, yo, they stole your idea. And I was like, no, they didn't. Like, this is, first of all, I didn't come up with the punk rock brunch, but also, too, like, great. Like, steal the idea, because the idea is obviously working, and it's getting people and it's getting bands in front of people that would not normally see them. Let's do it. Everybody should do it. You should do it. There should be punk rock brunches all the time. And it's like people have this weird competitive thing when it's really not a competition. Like we're never competing with each other.
I get asked that question sometimes too, where it's like, oh, how do you feel if you see that someone's playing at that spot and you've played there last week? Do you feel like that's like intruding on like your work and business stuff too? I'm like, no, dude, at all, because
this isn't
sometimes
Rent.
sometimes I'm the one that recommended that person for that gig, or vice versa, sort of thing. And it's community, and also, I'm about to head there now to say what's up to him, because he's right down the street, sort of thing. It's like, once the community over competition analogy, it's like those people that have that kind of like competition sort of thing, or gatekeep absolutely everything, or they have like this ego and entitlement. That kind of like they show their they show their ass in a certain way too. And also, if you want an answer, pull out your phone, ChatGPT, Siri, Google. You will find it. You just got to have that hustle and that work drive.
Yeah, no, at 100%. And I think it's like a lot of people are so focused on it being a competition, and when you stop focusing on it being a competition and start focusing on everybody working together, it changes how everything works. All of a sudden, things become easier.
And it's art too. I mean, we're that's why we do it. We're not in competition with each other.
And it's like the emotion, it's like you're dealing with different types of people. Like the artists are different types of people, and they work differently. So when you're surround yourself with artists all the time, you understand. Like, I understand how you approach something because you have an artistic standpoint. You understand how I approach things, and like that community only comes with everybody understanding and supporting each other. It's like the way, like I had a conversation with a very popular musician in our area where he straight up told me, I don't want to tour. I don't want to. I just want to make records. And I'm thinking to myself, what?
I've heard that more and more
What?
lately. I've heard that more and more
it
lately.
blew my mind because I was like, dude, like you were like, you're pulling good numbers. You people like you.
Yeah.
You do the whole entire thing. You go through the whole thing. You're playing great shows. Why don't you want to tour? But some people just, they do things different. But I support that person. That's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. That's fine. To me, it's like, I believe that if a band doesn't tour, they're sort of dead.
Yeah.
But that's just my thought because I've been on the road and I understand that that's the way that works.
Well, especially now, it's interesting because there's so much different strategies you can do with it. I mean,
many.
you can build yourself online, and opportunity can seek you so much where it's like, oh, wow, I can book 2 weeks out in New Jersey and do this whole path way up there and then fly back instead of doing the van life thing, because I'm also building my momentum and my numbers organically and authentically online, and I can take this digital, tangible product and shop this around to different places where I can really save some time and headache and frustration in different ways. Or there's the other way too, where it's just like you have everybody that sees eye to eye. It's like, let's just put our nose down for this 365 days and hustle and see where that gets you. And sometimes doing that, you're like, I would have never gotten this opportunity if I wasn't playing this small bar venue in Charleston and that one person that was in the room. I mean, I don't want to misquote this, but I'll tell you off camera because there is a popular band in this area, and how they got so popular was the one thing they said is like, play outside of Florida. We are in, it's like 8 hours
I know
to
what
get
you're
out of
talking
the
about.
state. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like,
And but that
if
that's
I
right,
didn't
though.
play that one venue to like probably like 11 people in New York, but that one person out of that 11 knew somebody that gave me an opportunity because they saw how bad, like our actions spoke louder than our words. The fact that we were there, the fact
do
that
the fucking work. Do the work. But the work is not, it's not the TikTok dances. It's not, even though the internet tells you that's what it is, it's not that. Let's stop it. You're embarrassing yourself. It's not the TikTok dances. It's not the Instagram algorithm. You're not. This is what always kills me about, like, the internet has created this vast wealth of art. Like, there are people in places that will never leave their hometown can be able to get their art out to the world. Love that. But the people that are focused on and being like, I'm doing the TikTok dances, I'm doing the green screen bullshit, I'm doing the memes, but I'm not blowing up. Well, how hard are you working in the practice room? How fucking hard are you going when you're at shows? Are you playing the right shows? Are you getting out of town? Are you showing the work? Because the reality of it is, like, yes, you could have 10,000 followers on Instagram, but if you're not out there doing the work, then it doesn't fucking matter. It's just 10,000 followers on Instagram, and you can post all the TikTok videos you want. It doesn't matter.
And at that point, it's
Getting
just like,
out, doing the work.
Are you a social media influencer that's playing musician, or are you a musician that is using social media as a platform to uplift your art?
Yeah.
So it's
tough.
so tough. I mean, even especially in my career industry, being a photographer and working with a camera too, it's tough because I see so many people like playing the social media game, getting numbers, getting really good clients too, but then it's almost like the social media photographer compared to like the real photographer. But then also it's like, who am I to say anything where it's like they're both using a camera and they're both kind of doing this, but in the same sense, it's just like, where do you spend your time and energy? And like, it's all so different for the individual.
It's very hard, and that's why, like, I've said this to you many times. Like, my mentality is always diversify or die. It's like you have to create.
That's pretty cool.
You have to create multiple streams of creativity and income in order to be able to survive nowadays.
You should put that on a shirt. More
diversify or die.
For real, yeah.
I say it so much,
dude. You really should.
But it's really like that to me is the key, and it's really what's kept me afloat.
Yeah.
I have to do. I not only play music for a living, I record and mix, and I work in a studio. I write children's books. I book shows. I do freelance podcast editing. I do all this stuff, but it's like those things are like I'm not making $100,000 doing any one of those things, but all of that together is making me an okay living that I can be able to do. And then now I can be able to, when I want to, I can focus on something that I really want to focus on. And I think that a lot of times, and it's really hard for people that have like 9-to-5 jobs to be able to do that. We're lucky.
Yeah.
Like we're lucky we get to do what we love to do, and it actually pays our bills.
But also, it's just like sometimes those 9-to-5 jobs are surrounding yourself with people that are just like killing your flowers too, and you're not able to grow
100%.
or to support. I mean, my first year starting out, I had people coming to my gigs telling me to stop playing because I was like a different part of my life transitioning out and kind of just like really taking that leap of faith and just doing my own thing. And people were like, oh, we only identify you as a guitar player who plays in different bands, or you're doing your own thing. And what is this kind of sound? Like you play like kind of like older rock stuff, but kind of like in a groovy
I love
feel.
your style.
And
I think it's really unique.
it's like, so it's just like, man, freaking pick a lane and
It's
stick
like
with this sort of thing.
Americana funk.
Yeah, I mean,
It's badass,
It's CBR, country blues, and whatever the R is. It's like either reggae rock or you use your imagination.
I love that. Yeah. Put that on a shirt.
Yeah, oh my God. Soon. Hopefully, when this new record comes out, we'll start making some merch and do some TikTok dances.
No, please
Yeah,
no.
no, we won't.
Absolutely
we won't.
not.
We will. We won't. No, we won't. Yeah, we will. Yeah.
No.
But the children's book's also something I want to ask you because, I mean, me with I found my love for photography and just my journey with just even doing stuff in digital media all stemmed from through promoting my band online, just through doing that. And I got lucky with a couple other Instagram blog pages growing up to 30,000 followers and a bunch of other stuff too, where I've been flown out to California to NAMM, the National American Music.
I was like,
thing.
you're hip hopping all over the place.
Yeah, and then I've been to Nashville. I've gotten like endorsement sponsors for me as an artist, which I didn't even have any music out or anything, but it was just like
people,
the
man.
relationships and just kind of the stuff that I was able to kind of cultivate over time. But through doing this, I've had local businesses reach out to me like, hey, I like how you represent your band online. Can you help me with my business? I'm like, sure, I could post your photos for you. But then starting to realize, like, in my opinion, just the authenticity of like what this image speaks of. I'm like you as the business owner reaching out to me, I'm like, you don't even look like the photos you're sending me, and they're blurry photos and they're black and white. This doesn't really accurately represent this. And for me to hire a photographer to do that, for me to post, I had the idea in my head, so let me just pick up the camera and learn it. And then I just fell in love with the craft itself, and then just kind of cultivated such a niche creative agency for my business. But and I believe that has fueled so much more importance, and I have so much more love for my passion, which is music, that has brought me to that. So when I hear with you, I mean, you speak so elegantly, and then you walk with such confidence too. So with all these different creative things and being able to kind of be in different circles as well and still be true to yourself, like going into children's books. So how did that kind of like idea spark? Was it something random or something you've always wanted to do?
I say everything that I do creatively is random. It's always, that is a, like when I said at the beginning of the show that it's my superpower, it's literally like I'm an X-Men and like my power is creativity. And it's just like everywhere I go, everything I do, something sparks something. So I was literally walking my dog, and my dog was going around chasing after this fly, and I said, the dog and the fly, blah blah blah, and I wrote this short limerick. I was like, that's kind of cute. I said it to my wife, and I was like, oh, that's really cute. And then sat on it for a little while, and then I was like, let me just see, I'll just try. Never done it before, but I like writing stories. Big fan. Wrote the story, got the first one done. I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. So then I wrote a second one, then I wrote a third one, and then I sat on it for like 2 years. And then just recently, because of the beauty of Canva, thank you, Canva, I was like, getting an illustrator is really, really expensive, super expensive.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to fucking do this. This is going to be too much. So I'm like, let me just try and do it my own. So then I just started using Canva to sort of create these books, and then found out that you can upload these books to Amazon through their Kindle Direct Publishing thing, and I was off. And now I have 3 paperback books published, and I just released my first hardcover full book last week. It's just like, I did not intend, in full disclosure, I'm not a kid person at all. And my wife is like, why did you do this if you just don't really? It's not like I don't like kids.
Yeah.
I just like I spent so much time around drunk adults that children tend to bother me because
Yeah.
they seem to act the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's just like I love telling stories. It's surprisingly harder to get a story out of the limited amount of words that you can use. So earlier I spoke about Five Irons in the Fire. That's a Dr. Seuss thing. Dr. Seuss, and that was what I was talking about. I got reaffirmed on this. Dr.
Damn,
Seuss
I
always
should have
had
known that.
yeah, Dr. Seuss always had multiple stories going on at one time. So that when he would die on this one, he'd move to the next one, blah, 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 back around, he would have a better perspective of it. So that's something that I had been doing for a while. And then when I read his biography and I saw he was doing it, I was like, fuck, yes, I'm on the right path. So not only was I reaffirmed that this idea was good, but also too, I was reaffirmed by somebody that I looked up to. Obviously, if you love children's stories, then Dr. Seuss is like, he's the GOAT.
Right.
Him, Shel Silverstein. But yeah, so I started really getting into the life of Dr. Seuss and all that bullshit. And I just really, I really enjoyed the way that he spoke about writing, but he did this thing where he had he had a challenge. He went to his publisher and he said, I bet you I can't write a book that uses only 50 words or something. I think it was 50. It might have been 70 words. And the publisher's like, fuck you. You can't do that. He wrote Green Eggs and Ham. And if you read the book, it only uses 50 words. That's it. But it still tells this compelling story about Sam and the green egg. And you read it and it doesn't even dawn on you how little amount of actual English words are in this book. And that was like, bing, it just like, all of a sudden it's like, now you're thinking about it totally different. So now when I write stories for songs, they use big words because I try to be artistic and trying to be, pseudo-intellectual and all that bullshit like that. But now you can't be that here. You have to be creative in a totally different medium. So I do the children's stories not because I have this love for children, but I have this love for my creativity and I want to test it. And this is like a whole new way to test it, that I can be able to tell these stories that are, you can understand. Like the one story that's my favorite story is called Gary the Ghost. And it deals with being accepted. And like, you have your family that you may not feel like you fit in, but then you find your group of friends. And this is essentially what we've been talking about this entire time. It's about community. You find that community, and then all of a sudden you feel like you have a purpose. And like Gary the Ghost is about that, but it uses like 60 words. And it still tells that story, but I was able to do it in such a small way that a child could read it. I don't know if they'd get the overtones, but
They will.
maybe there's a good possibility. But the parents can read it and be like, "Oh shit, yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty good, that's
yeah.
pretty good." And
Have you ever read this to a class or kind of done any like public reading? Or?
No, I haven't done any of that stuff. I've honestly been slacking off. I said to my wife the other day, I was like, I really think I can make money doing this book thing.
My sister's a teacher, and she's just like, why haven't you like written a song for a classroom?
Yeah.
Or something like that. And then and also
I get people that bug me about that shit all the time.
business aspect of it too. It's like, you should consider.
Yeah. Well, my thought process with this was that I'm going to eventually take those books and turn them into songs.
Oh, dude, nice.
Because the material's already there,
Yeah.
and it all rhymes. And like I don't write books that don't rhyme, so it's like it's kind of already there.
Yeah.
But that's like the later on thing. But I have like tons of books that I've written. I have an Instagram that you can go follow where I did like these 10-page stories on Instagram, and I have probably like 10 of them up there now. Yeah, it was a new way to test my creativity. And I was able to do it, and people dig it. I haven't done any readings. I really haven't pushed it too much. I sold some books. I made a couple bucks off of the first couple books that I did. I really haven't. I don't know. It's like this is the curse of being a hyper creative. You do all this stuff. You don't know the business end of it. This is where I need a manager. I need somebody to like be like, all right, you did this great. Now we're going to market it to this person. Perfect. I just want to sit there and I want to sit in my castle and create.
Yeah.
That's all I want to do. I mean, that's what Dr. Seuss did at the end. He lived on top of a fucking mountain.
I think Donald Glover said something like where he has like a farm or just some piece of property west in Georgia, I think it's there, and he just goes out there. He's like, if I'm writing a song, scripting something, or painting something, and then it's just like that's just whatever comes that day kind of happens, and it's just that is making it.
And then you bring it to somebody, and then they bring it to the world. Like that's the goal, man. Like that's all I want to do. I want to create, hand it off to somebody, and then they go do, and then just go back into my cave and keep fucking creating until until I'm dead.
For me, every year, it's very important to me that I like release something original and creative that follows my visual or audio endeavors. I don't know if you kind of feel the same
I do.
way.
I feel that. I feel like that on a daily basis, though, which is a very, very hard thing on myself.
Yeah.
I do it to myself because I always want to give. I want to give myself and other people something new, something new that I'm doing. But it's just like it's really hard to do.
It's tough because I want it to be good, but also I want it to be real and authentic. And I know that sometimes like there's so many ideas and so many thoughts, and it's just like which ones are the right ones to water and give them energy and light to.
Yeah.
And that way, sometimes the next day, it's like that one is still sitting in my brain. It's like, well, this is a reason for something like that too. It's it could drives myself crazy.
Yeah,
sometimes
100%.
Yeah, and
I
that's-
go into really, really dark places when I feel like I'm not being creative.
How do you get out of that?
Just push through, man. It's most time. Actually, what usually gets me out of it is enjoying somebody else's creativity. So that's why I love movies. So like films that's my other passion. And like I will go to the movies. I will I'll watch a movie at home. Usually go to the movies is the best bet. 2.5 hours where I could just immerse myself in somebody else's creation.
Yeah.
And then I walk out of it where I don't have to worry about anything else.
Yeah, you're
Phone's
telling me-
down the whole entire night.
Yeah, you're telling me Joker 2 is your favorite movie?
No, God.
I'm just kidding.
I hate you. But I will say, like, Joker, people ask me, like, why I love that first movie, and it has nothing to do with the politics of the movie or anything like that. It was one of the last movies I watched when I was drinking, and I had such a guttural reaction to it because I was wasted when I went to go see it
Oh, really?
the first time, and I fucking cried my eyes out because I was like, this is such a sad man, and nobody pays attention to this man, and I was just like, in that moment, I understand the politics are very weird on that whole entire thing, but I don't give a fuck. Like that was like I had an emotional experience with it, and it will forever live as one of those movies that will always be with me.
Which is so cool. You just walk out of the theater and you're like, I got this out of that. And someone's like, I didn't get that at all. And
That's what I love about movies, and I don't feel like it happens enough with music, where like somebody listens to it, you either like it or you don't like it. There's very rare where you get to talk about like the real. I don't know. There's like with movies is like you like it or you don't like it, but why?
Yeah.
And music, I feel like doesn't have enough of that now. People
And
are just saying like
guilty
nah
with-
or yeah.
I'm guilty with music because I mean, I'll listen to something and not like it, and I'm like, all right, I know it's like I'll have to go back and give it like another listen to, like in a different medium, in a different way, sort of thing. Because someone's like, listen to this album, you got it. I'm like, okay, and I'll listen to it. I'm like, and then like another time I'll listen to it, and like I've like forced myself to like the Beatles for such a long time, and it just didn't click with me until I saw like someone else covering a Beatles tune, and I didn't even because their catalog is huge.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know 8 Days a Week existed as a song, and I'm just watching. Yeah, dude, I know, right? I
No, you
yeah,
didn't
dude,
really know much about the
I'm
Beatles
a
then.
late bloomer. But
Lord.
I was no, I saw them covering. I'm like, this is good. I'm like, oh, of course, it's a Beatles song. And then that just skyrocketed me into their catalog, into everything. I'm like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah, my dad forced the Beatles down my throat my entire life, and then I didn't want to listen to it because of that. And then one day I was sitting in my apartment, stoned, and I put on the White Album, and I was like, oh fuck.
Oh, that's the
He's
way to
so
do it.
right. He's so right. They're so good. Like Rocky Raccoon changed my life. I was like, God damn, this song is so good. It's like a Western, but it's like dancey. I'm like, what is happening in this song and the harmonies? Oh, that's such a great album.
I want to say this before I forget. Thank you, Prosperity
Yeah.
Brewers, for hosting us.
Yeah.
Hosting this. You play here monthly?
Yeah, I do a monthly gig here. I've been working. We've done a couple of like small festivals here, a couple of shows and stuff like that. I've helped him with booking his like random events he does there and stuff like that. But I've been working with Dom for I don't know, about 3 years now, 4 years now, something like that. Yeah. And he was one of those guys where the first time that the Shake played here, I was like, you don't mind if we're like loud in here, right? He's like, nah.
Fuck yeah.
He's like, I don't care, man. Like, do you come out here, play your music? I don't care whether you play covers or not. Just come out here and play your music and do you. And I've always respected that. And he's a business guy. And so we've been kind of teetering back and forth on doing, like a more permanent fixture in this place. And just recently, I've been messing around with this idea for a little while. And he came to me and he's like, hey, like, I think now's the time to pull the trigger. I'm like, all right.
That's what I was about to ask. So
Yeah.
what's new and exciting coming here?
So we're going to be doing this thing called, we're calling this place the Rec Room. And the idea is it's sort of like a play on words, rec room, like it's recreational, but also rec room because we're recording it, REC.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why I felt the need to explain that, but you get
There's
it.
one person that needed it.
Oh, all right, okay. Was it so we're doing this thing where we're putting on shows. Not going to be like a major like venue like all the time burning, but we're going to do shows a couple times a month, and the idea is, you know how hard it is to make money as a original artist.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Nearly fucking impossible. So when you play a show, you usually either have, I do like the AAYC show, I do a guaranteed show. You get $100. You play for the 30 minutes. Sound's all taken care of. It's a free show. Everybody walks with $100, and you sell merch and make your money.
That's a good deal.
It's a good deal. $100 guaranteed for 30 minutes of your original music doesn't fucking happen.
And the sounds included.
And the sound's included. Pretty good. So anyways, and I get people kind of give me blowback on that. If you ever, honestly, anybody who's said no to that gig because of that, don't call me.
Good for you, I guess.
Yeah, that's so stupid. Anyways, you either do that or you do the door deal, which is where you play a show and then the door and the split and that happens, and that's relatively normal. Because people are, one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is like, oh, we don't make any money playing that show. It's a business. They have to make some fucking money. So like if you're not bringing in a shit ton of people, then you don't make a lot of money. That's just the way it is. So the concept of it is really hard to make money. So my thought was we do a show, we charge at the door, bands get all the door money, whatever like that. But the added bonus is that we record the shows as live records. And then you watch this band. Now imagine you're sitting at a show, and you're watching this band, and you're like, God damn, this band's so fucking good. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, I love this band. Come after that and you want to buy merch. But what if you just wanted to buy that show you just watched? You can now go up at the Rec Room. You can go up to the band's merch table and buy the show that they just played. So now in like a week or 2 weeks, we haven't figured out the timeline really. The show will be mixed, mastered, and sent to these people. So now, not only do you have this piece of immortalized thing that will never happen again, it will only happen that one time and it won't ever happen again. They may play those songs again, but you know, the one note wasn't here, the drums were a little off on this one, or they were like super tight that night and they weren't super tight. You know, like those live things will happen. You will have that immortalized in that record, and then the band makes a couple extra bucks. So now they're selling those merch they didn't walk in with, they now walk out with. And so it's a way for them to make a couple extra bucks. They get content, because nowadays it's all about content. So they get content, they get audio content. We'll have some videographers and photographers and stuff like that kind of come through here as well. And we're just going to try and build it up as a place where you can be able to come and have something different. You leave a venue with something different than anybody else is doing right now. And I bought this piece of equipment a while ago to be able to sort of do this, not with my intention to do this, but I was booking shows and I was running the sound, and I was recording these shows just for my own sake, and I was using the shows, putting them into Logic, mixing them myself. And then if there was a band that we just recently played a show at Anchors Away in Deerfield, and Tiger Sunset played, and their set was incredible, and I sent them a mix. They're like, yo, this is great. Did a couple of edits they wanted to do, and I think they're releasing it as a live record now. And it's like those moments, they were like so stoked that was happening, and I was like, what if we use that on a more regular basis? So that's essentially what we're doing, and we're going to be doing it on a regular basis of recording these live records, and then whenever you come here, you could be able to purchase the live records from these bands and everything like that. It's just like it's just a new tool for the scene to have.
Dude, you're doing so much, but also it's really just points back to the community, and it makes sense. You're not doing something that's just so out of left field, or it's just burning so much time that doesn't really kind of align back to your passion with being music. So I'm always wondering, like, do you ever feel that you're spreading yourself too thin?
Always.
Do you ever feel? Yeah,
always, man.
What?
But if I'm not going to do it, who is?
Right.
And that's the way I felt about Justin. That's the way I felt about Ben. That's the way I felt about Hector. If they didn't do what they did, then people wouldn't have, like, when people come out, I mean, like, they're probably gonna get mad at me for saying this, but when people come at them being like, why wasn't I doing this? Why wasn't I a part of this? Is like, you have to understand something, is that like, they make no money doing this. I make no money doing this. All these shows that I put on, stuff like that, I don't make any fucking money. But what I do is I get the opportunity to be able to bring bands to new people and meet new people to create relationships for them to know how to create relationships moving on. A lot of this is for the younger bands. I wish that there was people like Justin, Ben, and Hector when I was in high school. I wish there was, it sounds cocky, but I wish there was someone like me when I was in high school. And there probably was, but I never met them. But in what my idea is that you go from venue to venue to venue. You will meet people that are part of this community. And that community, you can be able to then surf the wave of this until you get yourself confident to get the fuck out. And that's the big thing for me is like, I want, like, there's so many great bands that need to travel. You need to go out. If you really want to do this, you can't do it at home. It's just not the reality of it. You want to do this, you have to leave. You have to go see what it's like. You have to play at a bar in New Orleans that's 10 minutes off of Canal Street where they tell you, watch out, the van outside that you have parked out there most likely will get robbed. You have to be able to willing to play at that bar where nobody shows up except for the bar and the bartender's girlfriend. And, oh, by the way, no sound guy. You got to run sound too. No problem. Set up the sound to the whole entire thing. The only person that's there the entire show is one girl. That happened to us. And it's on our live record. We talked about it, The Shake. We played to one girl. And she loved it. She stood directly in the center of the show. We played, Dominic played, and the Shake played. We played our fucking hearts out to this chick. And we gave her all the merch, everything like that. But that moment right there was when we were like, this is what it's about. And you can play to your friends constantly. And your friends are always going to be nice to you. They're always going to be nice to you. But when you go out there, there's no more friends. You're playing to real people, and it's a real reaction. And you come back home and you go, okay, all right. So that's what that was like. How do we mess with this? How do we change things? How do we do things? And I think that now the Rec Room specifically doesn't really facilitate any of those things. But what it will do is it will help the local community. So if you're making a live record, don't you want all your friends there? So more people, you'd be like, you need to come out to the show because we're making a live record. So we need people yelling and screaming. So now friend Jake calls his friend Jennifer, be like, hey, my buddy's band is doing a live record. Come be a part of it. Now they come. Now they love the band too. Now Jennifer goes and tells Michael. Now Michael goes and tells whoever. And that is what happens, is that we create this ecosystem. So now they may come to this show, fall in love with this band. Then they go see, oh, shit, that band's playing over Propaganda. I'm going to go over there. Oh, that band's playing over at fucking Anchors Away in Deerfield. I'm going to go over there. They're playing at Terra Firmata. I'm going to go. So now we've created this thing, and we're forcing people into being fans of the people that are around here. One of the things that you do really well, and I feel ashamed of, we had a conversation. This is out of left field, I know. We had a conversation. We were at Guanabanas, and I said to you, I'm going to get some Starbucks. Do you want some Starbucks? And you said to me, no. And I was like, he's like, I'm gonna get coffee from this local shop. And I was like, all right, cool. This morning, before we came here, you said you're going to get some coffee. And I said, where? Because I knew you weren't going to Starbucks. You're going to some local shop. But in that moment, I was like, you know what?
Vote with your dollar.
What I thought was, this is something that I need to work on. I have done a poor job I'm a Starbucks girly. You know what I mean? Like, I go to Starbucks. But what I should be doing is I should be going to places like, I don't want to say their name because I don't want to get it wrong.
Yeah.
Because it'd be bad if I did. But I should go to local coffee shops. If I want a sandwich, I should go to local sandwich places. And you do that very well. You're very focused on the local. My focus on the local has always been the local music, local art, this, that, and the other. But I know that I need to work on focusing on local businesses
There's
as well.
nothing wrong with some Starbucks, bro.
No, man, no, I understand. But what I'm saying, when I'm home, like, I should be going over to that place. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to the studio, if I'm going to the warehouse, or anything like that, I'm going to Starbucks. Yeah. But why? Why can't I just go over there? Give my hard-earned dollars to somebody who's a part of this community, as opposed to Starbucks, which is just a corporation. And I think that if I make that small change in my life, it makes me think differently on everything else as well. And I think that's another thing. I'm not telling everybody to stop going to fucking Starbucks. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that if you think differently about focusing on what's local, it'll change the whole ecosystem here, because there's so many great bands that will never play at Revolution. There's so many great bands that never play at Culture. There's so many great bands that will never play at, I think, Amphitheater. They may play here. They may play at Propaganda. They may play in somebody's fucking backyard. And if you go and give the local people a chance, you may find something that you will love and you will love forever.
think globally, act locally is one thing I like to kind of think about too sometimes, where it's just like this little like ripple effect. And that's where, I mean, now it's my turn to brag on you, where I think it's just, you've done so well, where it's just like, you're not just, because there's so many things, so many people, especially with, I mean, since you've been here since for a while, I've been doing it since 03, 05 or whatever. You've seen a lot of change and a lot of influx of people coming in. There's a lot of lip service of people kind of talking about this, doing that, doing this for people, doing this together for us and for community. And then you kind of realize there's more of like a grabbing intention rather than I'm gravitated towards certain things. And that's why I give you a lot of credit. And dude, you've helped so much with the connection in my band and just even me as like a creative individual, just to kind of like fine tune a little bit of like the loose ends where it's just like where I like pitched like my idea where I'm like, this is what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for just a like a hired gun sort of thing. I'm really looking for this. I know it's kind of like a big ask sort of thing for your time, especially for someone like you who are doing so many different things and you're willing to do it. But also when we're kind of rehearsing or just like coming to the table, you actually bring something to the table too. And it uplifts everybody's spirits. It's something I can actually walk away with too. So
Well, to me, it's like if I'm gonna be there, why am I not gonna do the job?
it's some people just don't really.
No, I believe.
really
I know.
But
Believe me, I know.
Even like private conversation where you're texting me like, "Hey man, like, what if we did something like this?" And also, I don't want to over intrude if that's what you're thinking. I'm like,
I've had a really bad problem with overstepping boundaries.
I mean, the fact that you even like articulated that, I respect it so much. But that's why I try to over articulate certain things too, where I'm just like, no, I want your input. I want this. I mean, I've been playing guitar with Royal. I mean, I've been friends with Royal since like high school too, and that's kind of like our like working relationship too, where I'm like, no, if you see something, say something, and that's such a quote that's been popularized because of like the crime in New York. Try to use it in a positive light. If you see something you like, say something. I encourage people all the time, like, why do you like that painting? I don't know. Like, think about it. Like, really dive in. Like, the colors. What about the colors? They kind of have like this faded look and it's kind of cool sort of thing. Oh my gosh, the artist is actually colorblind and they actually have to use these colors a certain way like this. And they would have never thought that because they're super insecure about it. But it's just the action of kind of doing. And speaking of that, I really want to be respectful of your time and Prosperity's time too, because we're kind of hitting a certain hour mark. But
has it only been an hour?
It's been longer. It's been longer than an hour.
I was gonna say, I feel like we've been chatting for a minute.
It's been longer than an hour. But one thing I like to do with this whole thing, just like if someone listened from like A to Z, what is one main takeaway you want someone to kind of get out of this?
Out of this
whole conversation we had. If we had you had to bring it home to 1 point.
Man, I think there's so many things that I think the main thing would just be, we had the conversation about community. Like the community is everything. And like being receptive to other people's ideas. Something that I did not learn as a younger creative was being receptive of other people's ideas. And I was I kicked out of so many goddamn bands because I was just, first of all, I was overly negative. To be fair, a lot of times that I was negative things I was right, but that's neither here nor there. I was overly negative because I always wanted more. And I didn't listen properly. And I think that when it comes to anything, when it comes to music, when it comes to relationships, whether they are any type of relationships, when it comes to anything, listening properly changes your execution of everything. And like when you really put decent ears on, you can be able to access so much more. And like when we were having rehearsal last night, like listening, and like I told you, like that's part of like what I do is I'm a good listener. I can read body language to be able to, because I've been playing with so many people, so like that's part of my repertoire. And I just recently started using that in the rest of my life. And I have people that come to me constantly asking me questions that just want to talk. And I know they ask me a question about something, but I know what they really want to do. They just want to talk. That's it. And I will do that. I'm not a therapist, but I have had many musical therapy sessions because of it. And it's made me a better musician. It's made me a better person. And it's made me better understand how people go about their creative lives. So I think that's I think that's it.
I like it. Anything you want to plug and chug?
No, not really.
Perfect.
I'm pretty sure we did all that.
We'll TikTok dance out of here.
Absolutely.